You've been doing everything right during the day, eating better, taking your medications on time, avoiding sugar, watching your portions, and yet, your blood sugar is still higher than expected every single morning. What if the problem isn't your dinner? What if it isn't your medication, or your activity level, or even your stress? What if the real problem is something much simpler and much closer than you think? What if it's what you drink right before bed? That's the question we're going to explore today, because most people never think about their bedtime drink as something that could affect their overnight blood sugar. It feels too small, too insignificant, but what you drink in those final hours before sleep may be influencing your morning glucose levels more than you realize. Today, we're going to talk about the #1 bedtime drink that may help support more stable blood sugar overnight. And we're also going to talk about 3 drinks that millions of people consume every night believing they're harmless or even healthy without realizing what they may be doing to their glucose while they sleep. And before we go any further, what do you usually drink before bed? Leave your answer in the comments. We'll come back to that at the end. Let's start with something that almost nobody talks about. When people think about blood sugar management, they think about food, meals, carbohydrates, sugar content, portion sizes, and all of that matters, genuinely, but drinks are often treated as a separate category, something neutral, something that doesn't really count in the same way food does. And that assumption is where a lot of people quietly go wrong. Because drinks absolutely affect blood sugar. Some raise it dramatically, some raise it gradually, some raise it in ways that are deceptive precisely because the effects happen slowly, or because the drink seems too innocent to be the culprit. And when the effects happen at night, while you're sleeping, while you're not monitoring, while you have no way of feeling what's occurring in your bloodstream, those effects can translate directly into the elevated morning glucose reading that greets you every day. Here's what makes nighttime different from daytime. During the day, your body is active. Your muscles are using glucose. Your metabolism is running at a higher rate. You have multiple opportunities throughout the day to offset a blood sugar spike through movement, hydration, and subsequent meals. At night, none of those offsets are available. Your metabolism slows. Your muscles are at rest. Your body's ability to clear glucose from the bloodstream becomes less efficient as insulin sensitivity naturally decreases in the late evening and overnight hours. In that environment, even a relatively modest blood sugar spike from a bedtime drink can persist through the night, growing, compounding, and showing up in your morning reading as a number that seems inexplicable given everything you did right during the day. That's the hidden dynamic most people with type 2 diabetes have never been shown, and once you see it, it changes how you think about everything you consume after dinner. Let's go a little deeper into what's actually happening in your body between your last drink of the evening and the moment you wake up. The first thing to understand is that insulin sensitivity, your body's ability to respond effectively to insulin, follows a natural daily rhythm. It tends to be highest in the morning and gradually decreases as the day progresses. By late evening and through the night, insulin sensitivity is typically at its lowest point. What this means practically is that the same amount of sugar consumed at 8 p.m. produces a larger, longer-lasting blood sugar spike than the same amount consumed at 8 a.m. Your body is simply less equipped to handle it efficiently at night. The second thing to understand is the liver's role. As we've discussed in previous videos, your liver continues releasing glucose into your bloodstream throughout the night, a process designed to keep your brain and organs fueled during the fasting period of sleep. In people with type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance, this liver glucose release is often higher than it should be. If you add a blood sugar spike from a bedtime drink on top of that natural liver glucose release, and you do so with reduced insulin sensitivity working against you, you create conditions where elevated overnight blood sugar becomes almost inevitable. The third thing to understand is that blood sugar spikes at night aren't always obvious. You don't feel them the way you might feel a blood sugar crash or a dramatic spike during the day. There are often no symptoms, no warning signs, just a quiet, invisible fluctuation that plays out while you sleep and peaks right around the time your body begins preparing to wake up. And that's why so many people are genuinely confused by their morning numbers. They didn't eat during the night. They slept reasonably well. They followed their routine, but what they drank before bed set off a chain of events their sleeping body had no way to interrupt. Here's what makes this particularly important. The most problematic bedtime drinks aren't always the obvious ones. Most people already know that soda before bed is a bad idea. Most people already know that a glass of orange juice late at night isn't ideal, but the drinks that are quietly raising blood sugar for millions of people are often the ones that feel healthy, the ones that feel like good choices, the ones that have been part of a nightly routine for years without anyone ever suggesting they might be a problem. That's exactly what we're going to look at in a moment. But first, the drink that may actually help, the number one bedtime drink for supporting more stable blood sugar overnight, is something that almost every person reading this already has in their kitchen. It's water. And before you think I already knew that, I want to explain specifically why water matters for overnight blood sugar in ways that go beyond general health advice. When you are even mildly dehydrated, your blood becomes more concentrated. And as blood becomes more concentrated, the glucose within it becomes more concentrated as well, which causes blood sugar readings to appear higher than they would in a properly hydrated state. This effect is subtle, but real. And for people with type 2 diabetes who are monitoring their fasting glucose every morning, mild chronic dehydration can be a consistent, invisible contributor to readings that seem elevated without explanation. Staying adequately hydrated throughout the evening and drinking a glass of water before bed helps maintain proper blood volume and supports your kidney's ability to filter and process excess glucose overnight. Beyond that, being well hydrated supports the quality and efficiency of virtually every metabolic process that runs while you sleep, including the hormonal regulation, liver function, and cellular processes that directly influence overnight blood sugar control. Water also has a practical benefit that's easy to overlook. It replaces other drinks. Every glass of water you choose before bed is a glass that isn't filled with something that could spike your glucose. That substitution effect, consistently choosing water instead of a sugary or processed alternative, is itself a meaningful contribution to better overnight blood sugar management. Now, for some people, plain water before bed isn't satisfying on its own. And there is a second option worth mentioning. Sweetened herbal tea. Chamomile, peppermint, or hibiscus offers the warmth and ritual of a bedtime drink without any sugar, caffeine, or significant caloric content. Some herbal teas have been studied for their potential calming effects, which may support better sleep quality. And better sleep quality, as we've discussed, directly supports better insulin sensitivity the following day. The key word is unsweetened. No honey, no sugar, no flavored syrups, no sweetened versions from a packet. Plain water or plain unsweetened herbal tea. Simple, free, and available to almost everyone tonight. And now, it's talk about the 3 drinks that may be quietly working against you. Number 3. Fruit juice. Even natural, freshly squeezed, no sugar added fruit juice. This is one of the most common misunderstandings in diabetes nutrition. Fruit juice feels healthy. It comes from fruit. It's natural. Many people with type 2 diabetes reach for a small glass of orange juice or apple juice in the evening, believing it's a reasonable choice. But here's what happens when you drink fruit juice, even natural fruit juice, before bed. Juice is essentially fruit with the fiber removed. And fiber is precisely what slows glucose absorption in whole fruit. Without that fiber, the natural sugars in juice enter your bloodstream rapidly, producing a blood sugar spike that is often comparable to drinking a sweetened soft drink. A tea night with reduced insulin sensitivity and a metabolism that is slowing down for sleep. That spike has fewer ways to resolve itself. It persists. It contributes to elevated overnight blood sugar, and it shows up in your morning reading. A small glass of juice, even a completely natural one consumed right before bed, can quietly undermine the glucose control efforts of an entire day. Number 2. Sweetened milk drinks, chocolate milk, flavored milk, sweetened yogurt drinks, warm milk with honey or sugar added. These feel comforting. They feel like reasonable evening choices. And many people consume them specifically because they've heard that milk before bed can support sleep or prevent nighttime hunger. The problem is the added sugar. Plain milk contains lactose, a naturally occurring sugar that digests relatively slowly and produces a moderate, manageable glucose response. But sweetened milk drinks add significant amounts of sugar on top of that natural lactose content, creating a combined glucose load that is substantially higher than most people realize. A single serving of chocolate milk or a flavored milk drink can contain as much added sugar as a dessert, and consumed before bed, when insulin sensitivity is at its lowest and metabolism is slowing. That sugar has optimal conditions for raising blood sugar significantly and keeping it elevated through the night. If you enjoy milk before bed, plain unsweetened milk in a modest portion is a very different nutritional choice than a sweetened or flavored version. The distinction matters more than most people think. Number 1. Herbal tea with added sweeteners. This is the one that surprises people the most, because herbal tea itself is an excellent bedtime choice. Calming, warming, hydrating, and essentially free of anything that raises blood sugar. But herbal tea is rarely consumed plain. Most people add something: a teaspoon of honey, a spoonful of brown sugar, a drizzle of agave syrup, a flavored packet that already contains added sweeteners, sometimes several of these together, and the reasoning feels sound in the moment. It's just a little honey. It's natural. It's not like eating a candy bar, but a single teaspoon of honey contains approximately 5 to 6 grams of sugar, and honey raises blood sugar rapidly, without fiber to slow the absorption. A flavored herbal tea packet with added sugar can contain even more. Consumed right before bed. In the low insulin sensitivity environment of the evening, even this small amount of added sugar can create a blood sugar response that persists through the night. The drink isn't the problem. What we add to it often is. If you're currently drinking herbal tea before bed, that's a genuinely good habit. The single adjustment that may make a meaningful difference is drinking it plain, unsweetened, without anything added. That one change, made consistently, removes a nightly blood sugar trigger that most people never identify as the source of the problem. The bedtime drink matters, but it's one piece of a larger picture. Because the people who see the most meaningful improvements in their morning blood sugar aren't making one isolated change. They're building a consistent evening routine where multiple small habits work together, each one supporting the others. Here's what that routine looks like in practical terms. Choose a bedtime drink without added sugar, water, plain unsweetened herbal tea, or plain milk in a modest portion. Replace whatever you're currently drinking that may be creating a glucose spike you've never connected to your morning readings. Finish eating at least 2 to 3 hours before you go to sleep. This gives your body time to begin processing the glucose from your last meal before your metabolism slows and insulin sensitivity decreases further. The closer your last meal or snack is to bedtime, the more of that glucose processing has to happen in the least favorable metabolic conditions of your day. Take a short walk after dinner. As we've discussed in previous videos, even 10 to 15 minutes of gentle movement after your evening meal can meaningfully reduce the post-meal blood sugar spike and set a lower, more stable baseline for your overnight glucose levels. Avoid late-night snacking. Not because snacking is always wrong, but because repeated eating throughout the evening keeps insulin levels elevated and prevents your body from entering the stable, fasted state it needs to regulate blood sugar effectively through the night. Go to bed at a consistent time. Your body's hormonal rhythms, including the hormones that regulate blood sugar, operate on a predictable internal clock. Disrupting that clock by going to bed at dramatically different times each night disrupts those hormonal patterns and can contribute to worse glucose control. Independent of anything you eat or drink, none of these changes are complicated. None of them require special products, expensive supplements, or dramatic lifestyle transformations. They are small decisions, made consistently, that create the conditions your body needs to regulate blood sugar more effectively while you sleep. Here's the idea I want to leave you with today: your morning blood sugar doesn't start in the morning. It starts the night before, with what you eat for dinner, with what you do after dinner, with what you drink before bed, with what time you go to sleep, and how well you sleep. When you get there, all of those things create the environment your body works within during those 8 or 9 or 10 hours before you open your eyes and reach for your glucose monitor. And within that environment, your body is doing the best it can, processing glucose, managing hormones, regulating energy, running every metabolic process that keeps you healthy and functioning. The question isn't whether your body is trying. It always is. The question is whether the choices you make in the hours before bed are giving your body what it needs to succeed, or quietly working against it in ways you've never had a reason to examine. There is no miracle solution here. There is no single drink that will transform your blood sugar overnight. Anyone who tells you otherwise isn't being honest with you. What has always been available is consistency. One better choice before bed, repeated night after night, over weeks and months and years. That's where real progress lives. Not in dramatic transformations, but in small, deliberate habits that compound quietly over time into results that genuinely matter. Your next morning starts tonight, and tonight, the choice is simple. What will you drink before bed? And that's exactly the question I want to ask you right now. What is your usual bedtime drink? Water, tea, milk, or something else entirely? Leave your answer in the comments below, because sometimes the most revealing clue about your overnight blood sugar is hiding in the last thing you drink before you close your eyes, and your answer might help someone else recognize a habit they've never thought to question. If you're finding value in this kind of practical, evidence-based diabetes content, give this video a like, subscribe to Health Insight MD, and share it with someone who might benefit from it. We'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself, and good night.